when you have conflict, the two of you should be on the opposite side of the conflict. Never let the conflict weigh you against each other. In other words, the conflict is over there. It's you and I on this side that's going to deal with the conflict. So the weight of us is always going to lift, lower, lower us and lift that thing, that conflict. But it's never going to be me and the conflict against my husband. He and I are going to deal with it. And that's how conflict should be handled.
Rise from the ashes, everywhere that we go, our light be flashing. 'Cause you're alive, yes, you're alive. You can rise, as you're dancing off the ashes. Rise from the ashes, so everywhere that we go, our light be flashing. 'Cause you're alive, yes, you're alive. You can rise, as you're dancing off the ashes.
Okay, well, welcome to the round table. I'm Sandy Powell, and I'm glad to have you all here. And obviously, very happy to be in the midst and the company of all these folks that make all this noise up in here. Y'all, welcome to the show today. We have a special show today on conflict. Husband and wives, how to get along. Husband and wives on how to deal with conflict, dealing with those necessary battles. I say that because I am a firm believer that if you're married, you're going to have battles. You're going to have conflict. You're going to have difference of opinion. What makes the difference between good outcome and bad outcome is how we deal with the conflict. So today we're going to touch that in so many ways that some of you are going to walk away a little weak in the knee because we're going to touch your area possibly and touch your spouse's area. Y'all ready? I had the first thing I had on my agenda, and I'm glad that you all are joining us here at the round table. But I had a statement. I said conflict is essential and a part of human nature. It even goes back biblical, and everything that we do here is going to be on a biblical base. I want y'all to know that. From the onset of the beginning of time, Adam and Eve, how many know there was conflict? Conflict between God and what he had put out, and Adam and Eve and what they ultimately decided to do. It was a conflict. And then once they got, say, busted, okay, then there was more conflict. Now, Adam, the wife you gave me, he even blamed God, the one you made, the one that you get. Yeah, it's because of her, the reason why I'm in trouble. And how many know that's conflict? And then they had Eve to turn around and have conflict with the serpent. Conflict. Fast forward a little bit and say now they're children. Cain and Abel. Conflict. To the point that one takes the life of another because they did not handle the conflict in the best manner. Unfortunately, conflict is a part of what we have to do every day. And unfortunately, even in marriage, you're not always going to agree. And guarantee you're not going to agree on everything, which ultimately puts you on opposite sides. I had this little thing that I always say that says that when you have conflict, the two of you should be on the opposite side of the conflict. Never let the conflict weigh you against each other. In other words, the conflict is over there. It's you and I on this side that's going to deal with the conflict. So the weight of us is always going to lift, lower us and lift that thing, that conflict. But it's never going to be me and the conflict against my husband. He and I are going to deal with it. And that's how conflict should be handled. And so I'm going to ask you some questions. I want y'all to, I know you're full of barbecue, because we fed them before the show today. And so I know you have a full belly, so I'm just asking you not to snore during the taping. Let me ask you, what is the primary way in which you deal with conflict? And not just tell me just some outright things that you, how do you normally deal with your conflicts? And I want the truth, how you deal with your conflicts. As long as it's on, you're good.
In the past, silent treatment,
Silent
retreat.
treatment. How many us ladies do that? Silent treatment. Okay, how many of you brothers do that? Because it's not, see, they got their hand like this. We did this, and they did like this. It's something that both sides do. It's really our way of dismissing dealing with the conflict by going silent. And I don't know why we do that. We think that because we don't address it, it'll go away. Or and in some cases, I'm not just ready to deal with it. And so, hoping that it'll go away. We really don't want to touch conflict. How many of us like conflict? Anybody like conflict? No, nobody really wants to do it because it takes energy. Look at your neighbor and say, it takes energy to deal with you. They're like, don't start in my house today. Don't try to kick nothing off there, Sandy Powell. But the fact of the matter is that I want you to know that conflict is healthy. It gives you an opportunity to see another person's perspective, another person's way of thinking or how they may have dealt with something. It's also God's way of binding us together. Y'all don't believe that, do you? Ain't no way in the world that fight we did yesterday is supposed to be God. In actuality, it does. It shows in us what's in us, how we deal with conflict. It shows me. You know, like when we do the silent treatment thing, you know, it's really a kid move. Would you say? Yeah. It's a kid move because in actuality, our children do that. If you remember, when they get into a situation or whatever, they may go silent, have nothing to say. Any of your kids do that? Yes. Okay. Well, we as adults, we have a developed language, and we should have a maturity about us that we're able to actually speak and voice what we are feeling or what the conflict may be. There is no wrong in expressing what bothers you. Do y'all agree? There's no error in that. There's no wrong in saying, that bothers me. No matter how minute it may be or how unimportant you may think it is, it's okay to voice those opinions, voice what you like and don't like. It's up to your mate to how they deal with or receive what you're saying. And most of the time, if it's something we don't like, what the person says something, I don't like my eggs cooked like that after you cook the eggs. You don't want to hear that then, right? But information is power. So the conflict is that for you is that you should have told me that before I made the eggs, right? And his conflict is that I don't like my eggs that way. But if you take a step back from it, from the mature level, from the level of how can this better be solved and resolved, is to, honey, I didn't know that. Well, you know what? The next time, I promise you, I'm going to make them eggs just like you like them. Are you able to eat them this way, though, this time? And then if he can say, well, yeah, I might be able to handle it this time. Yeah, I'll eat them this way this time. And did I come in your house? That's the prophetic. Didn't know about the eggs, but anyway. If they're bearable for the sake of having harmony in your home, I appreciate that, honey, and thank you for making the eggs. Or we could spend all day talking about those 2 eggs. You're on dinner now. Eggs ain't even on the menu. And we still mad about what happened at 8 a.m. at 8 p.m. And they're eggs. Because we haven't figured out how to deal with the conflict. We haven't saw or we haven't allowed ourselves to see a bigger picture. I always say, remember this, you are, Reverend Powell, he is a part of me. What's best for me? Okay, so I'm going to do what's best for me, because why? He's a part of me, so as long as I'm taking care of me, I'm taking care of him. That make good sense? Okay, anybody else? How you deal with conflict? She said she goes silent, and the rest of us agreed.
Not that I like conflict, but I like to address it, because it's just like you said, because I feel like if you sweep it underneath the rug, I mean, it's still there. I might have covered it up, but it's still there. And I don't know. I don't like if something, like you said, if something bothers me,
right,
and I don't address it, then those ugly feelings you start to harbor, and I don't like to do that. So if someone has wronged me, I want to get that off my chest, and it's up to you how you deal with it. But I want you to know, because I don't want to carry around those feelings. I don't want to be looking at you sideways. So I like to confront it and address it.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to read something to you guys. Sometime if we understand the biblical thing, it makes sense. It'll snap in our head what's actually happening. I'm going to take you just to Genesis 3:16, and I'm just going to read it. But I was talking to you all about Adam and Eve and how the fall was, and when Adam blamed Eve and Eve blamed the serpent, and then God dealt with each one of them in an individual way. Is that correct? He gave Adam, that you're going to till the land. You're going to have to work for your thing now. And then the woman, this is what I'm going to read. Then he said to the woman, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy, and in the pain you will give birth. And he says here, and you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. Women, it's in our natural nature to want to control our husband. And because of that nature, God says, I will make the man ruler over you. He's going to rule. Okay, I know y'all don't like that, but y'all have to see God about that. I'm just reading to you what God said. But it's in our nature. First of all, Eve brought to Adam or gave to Adam the fruit that was forbidden. First of all, she off chit-chatting with old boy that she ain't supposed to be off chit-chatting with. That's conflict. Conflict. You're not supposed to be having that little chit-chat. We're going to talk about that later. On the little side. And then what you get from the side, now here you bring that to your husband. And put the family in a position. And so God said, because of that, then God said to the woman, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy. Yeah, we felt that one, didn't we? Yeah. And in pain you will give birth. And he says, and you will desire to control your husband. You will desire. That'll be your first move. How many of y'all women think you know more than your husband? Think you got a better answer? Come on, Sarah, don't leave us. Don't leave us now. When he does it, you say, I think that's a better way to do that. Don't we do that? Haven't we already figured it out that it shouldn't go that way? And maybe if he just asks me, we can get along a little bit better on this thing. And somehow or another, we find a way to try to manipulate, to get it to go our way and do it our way, and even make him think it's his idea. This is truth. This is Bible. See, if I wasn't reading from the Bible, then I could sit here and we could debate it. But because this is what the nature of the woman is that we will try to rule our husbands. It's automatic conflict, instantaneous conflict. And because of the makeup of man and woman being so different, so opposite, left to the right, up, down, it's so different that almost impossible for us to think alike and come to the same conclusion without conflict. Right? You were saying that you have to get it off your chest. Have you ever heard God say, don't say it now? Women, have you ever heard God say, don't say that right now? Hold that. Hold that. Don't do that. Don't say that right now. And we just feel, I'm not throwing you under the bus because we all on that bus with you. We all feel the same way. I need some of that fan. We all feel the same way that you feel, that we have to have the last say, or we have to get this off of our chest. But conflict doesn't always mean getting it off of our chest. Conflict or resolving conflict doesn't always mean getting it off our chest. Sometimes resolving conflict is not speaking, not throwing the gas on the fire that's trying to brew. It's a little smoldering little thing going on, and for some reason if we throw our little words on there, become a bonfire. Where if we had just held our peace, because there's a plan that God is doing and working out that will allow us to get to that place of resolution. But sometimes we can't get to that place of resolution because we have threw fire on it. I'm going to read this one part here. It says, the world has known no time without war or conflict. And unfortunately, marriages are not exempt. The one thing that we have to understand about conflict is that, for the most part, it's the fruit of our flesh. Conflict. Most of this, it says here, is as all of these fruits are prone to the blossom within the marriage union. Husband and wife, a lot of our conflict is because we have loud flesh. We want to have it our way. Because I can have a difference of opinion in what we're going to have for dinner without it being conflict. But most of the time it becomes conflict because I'm not willing to let go or give up any territory in it. That's the conflict. The conflict is that we're not willing to give up any territory. We're holding our ground. You know, we're going to have these hamburgers tonight. No, I'm not going to have any hamburgers. I'm not going to eat it. Well, I'm going to cook them. You're going to eat them. You know, that kind of thing. Well, you may not call it a hamburger. You can call it Salisbury steak if you want to, but we're having ground beef. And we're just not giving up on the territory. And the fact of the matter is that we got to get to the place where we release ourselves of operating or allowing our flesh, our nature, our natural man to have his way. And I know people might be saying, well, why are you talking about it in the spiritual sense? Because it's a spiritual thing. Conflict and the resolution of conflict is a spiritual thing. I'm going to go down here. The first thing we have to do with conflict is have the right attitude in order to resolve it. You can't come to the table to resolve conflict with a bad attitude. Have you seen that before? Why y'all shaking your heads like that? Like it's going on right now. Having come, looking at them. Automatically, body language, facial expressions, when you're in conflict, if it's bad, it will not make the situation any better. You ever tried to talk to somebody and you say, let me tell you my heart, oh Lord. Oh Lord. See, now we're not even talking about what was bothering me before. Now we're about to get into why you oh Lord. Anybody? Why your face like that? You know, what I can't express myself. See, now we all hand popping, the high-bye thing. You know how we do. Boo, boo, clapping it up, you know, in the house. And so we're so far from the initial conflict because now we're dealing with the bad attitude. So we're compounding the situation that could have been a minimal thing, could have been a quick egg situation fix right here. We could have just promised to have the eggs just like you want them tomorrow, but now you got to go with the face. Here we go again. Now it's the eggs. Yesterday was the bacon. Now today is the eggs. Well, can I do anything right? Oh, don't we do that? Don't we go there and just try to tear down the whole barn? When actually the only thing that's messed up on the barn is the door. But instead of just dealing with the broken door, we have burned the barn down. Because the attitude in which we're dealing with it is not good. You cannot resolve conflict angry. That's why, ladies, we have to give these men a moment. If there's heightened, testosterone or heightened anger or something, sometimes they don't process like we do in being able to settle down and deal with the conflict with anger in them. We have to allow them to go and ponder, give them a minute to take a deep breath, get that little mind together, come back to the table. Am I right, man? Sometimes it's very difficult for them, like us. We'll juggle. We'll have 17 things in the air. And we'll be tossing it and still tell you something. Right? And they got one ball they're throwing up. And if you want to talk to them, don't talk to me right now. I'm trying to throw this ball. It's not a put down, gentlemen. It is the simple of how we are made up. They are resolution people, men. They get to the point, bottom line it. Okay, we're going to get a white T-shirt. Let's go to the store. I saw them in the store the other day. We got to go in 17 stores to get the white T-shirt. We saw the white T-shirt in the one store. Trying to get cheaper, 2 cents. I saw it 2 cents cheaper down here. We spent $13 to go down there and get the 2 cent cheaper T-shirt. Causing more conflict. Fact of the matter is that when we have these type of moments of just intense anger, we have to give men a moment. I'll flip that coin over, men, and say this. Have a moment, but a moment. Don't take a lifetime. Don't say, whew, glad that's, and I don't think you're going to have to deal with the conflict. But it's hard for them to, like us, to woosah and really sit down and talk about it when that much heat is on it. You have to give them a moment. Am I right? They say, okay, give me a moment, Dre. He said, don't start in my house. I got her. I'll get her. Just call me. When it comes to the attitude of individuals, husband and wives, the one thing you have to keep in consideration is this person is someone I love. Because when you're in the heat of battle, that's one of the first things that get tossed. I love them. Right? Because when you are like, oh, goo-goo, or whatever, when it's all like that, you couldn't even fathom them being hurt or their feelings being hurt or someone coming at them to hurt their feelings, right? You can't fathom it. But when you are in a moment of conflict, you can find yourself, if you don't bring yourself to remembrance, this is the person that I love, you will bring harm to that person. And I know you say, well, I would never hit them. You don't have to strike a person to bring them harm. In conflict, it can get to the point where we start to degrade them or to speak words over them or speak words to them that we know will cut them deep and hard and that we know will cripple them. Because at the moment, we're trying to one up in the conflict. It's not about, I think my thing is they want to be right and not trying to be righteous. I want to be right. So because I think I'm right and because I think I'm just going to harm the one I love. But if you have your mind set right with the right attitude, you won't do that. And that's why sometimes we have to be what? Slow to what? Anger. Slow to anger, slow to speak. Yes, we have to be willing to take a moment. Allow that man to walk away for a minute. Because You know, we women, we have tendency to be that little chihuahua. The man is every bit of, how tall are you? 6'4". What are you, 5'2"? Oh, I took one. Okay, for you 5'3". She's 5'3", 6'4". But the chihuahua up at the Great Dane talking about rah, 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 rah. Rah, rah. And he's probably looking at her like, really? Chihuahua need to go, have a seat a minute, and let the Rottweiler, you know, take a moment before he gulp you. Snack pack, you know, just. I don't know why we women do that. And mainly because we know that he's not going to harm us. We would not do that to someone that we thought would harm us. But don't take advantage of that. The fact that your spouse will not harm you. You still should not provoke and bring them to that place of anger to the point where it crossed their mind or whatever. So that's conflict. How tall are you, Yante? 6'4", 2 6'4s in the house. And how tall are you? I'm not talking about with your shoes. I'm talking about without the shoes. How fudging? You 5'6"? Okay. Anyway, you're a much smaller person than Iante. And this is where you guys are comfortable. You're comfortable with the fact that your spouses will not harm you. So that's why we find ourselves being rah-rah with them. You know, getting up and having that bad attitude. Speaking to him in a manner that is not good. We should never, ever, say never, ever, ladies, degrade or belittle our male mate, our husbands. We should never do that. He's our rock. Say, he's my rock. He's my rock. So who takes a chisel to their own rock and expect it to stay the same? If you keep chiseling at it, guess what? You're going to end up with a pebble. Then when you really need a rock, all you can do is throw that pebble. You got much. You done chiseled it away. You done chiseled it away. The fact of the matter is that in the middle of conflict, it should never take away from that person as a person. Males, the same thing. You should never, in conflict, go to the place of belittling or to degrade them or to now point out all of the errors and the faults that you now find in that person. It is the worst time to bring up, you're talking about, can I keep talking about the eggs? Okay. We're talking about the eggs. The eggs was the conflict, but now we're going to go talking about, oh yeah, and by the way, you know, not just the egg situation, but since we own it, now we got a whole laundry list of all the things that bother you other than the eggs. And that is never cool. Say it's never cool. Never cool to bring out a laundry list when you're talking about one thing.